All right, well, let's just get into it. Well, Mark, thanks for joining me real quick. And I discovered you on social media, Instagram. I think Popular Front shared some of your photos, which I love what Jake is doing. I've never met Jake. We've like exchanged emails like once before, but I used to do some stuff with Vice back in the day. So we probably know a lot of the same people. And then he's done some stuff in the Middle East, which I spent a lot of time in that area. But yeah, that's kind of how I discovered you. And I love interviewing people, in photography and journalism, and now knowing a little bit about your background and just off of like some of your photos. And so thanks for coming on and chatting for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. Pretty happy to be here.
So I guess let's just like give me a little bit of breakdown on your current career, what you're doing, and then we can get into a little bit what happened yesterday regarding the U.S. Capitol and what you saw and what you were taking photos of and what you can say. And so I guess let's just start off like tell me a little bit about your past work and what you currently do.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually pretty early on in my career. So after high school, I went and joined the Marine Corps. I was in the infantry with 3-7 for 4 years. Did a deployment to Baghdad, did security for the embassy, and then another deployment to Afghanistan. Was in Helmand for a couple months, and I've done photography for most of my life. But when I was in Afghanistan, I was able to take photos and sort of really helped show people what we were doing out there. And this was in 2018, so the war was much different than I guess what people really thought it was. So that's where I really like discovered photojournalism and like this is the work I want to create and the stuff I want to talk about. So now I live in London. I go to University of the Arts London out there doing a photojournalism program. I've done a lot of protest work this past summer with the BLM stuff that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, so that's where a lot of my work is located. And then, so I've done a lot of protest work, just general sort of documentary work, really interested in like the conflict and military type aspect stuff.
Okay. What's as photographing the military and now being a freelance, what are some of the key differences that you've noticed now?
Access is probably,
Yep.
the biggest thing.
Yep.
Yeah, access, that's stuff, and I'm still learning about it a lot. But it is, I think the access thing is definitely the hardest part, especially where I'm at now with just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nice having that sort of independence, and there is honestly a huge community of people just that are willing to help. Like you mentioned earlier, the Popular Front guys. I've learned so much from everyone in that community, and then just in social media in general, just learned a lot from other journalists, photojournalists, everything like that.
Well, that's good. You're getting plugged. I mean, the community of journalists, we have to be there for each other. We have to there is a lot of competition. I get it. And there is, who can post and everything the quickest or what's the access for the story and how that all makes sense. But now we have to really support each other more than ever. And just because it's such a difficult industry already. And it is like a industry that can be pretty tough on top of just like the security issues someone can go through when covering anything regarding protest or conflict or natural disasters. And then throw on top of that, there's just the business side of things that could really weigh down people. And yeah, access, you're going to find just, people like Popular Front has they've done it for a while. And I've been lucky enough to, I could go to Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria and I know the right type of people and we're all probably connected in some way. It's probably one or two people off. From what I can tell, it looked like it was like the rally started and then all of a sudden it kind of just like morphed into what it was. Maybe it wasn't all strategically planned or maybe some people had some planning and motives for it, but kind of just a bit. I know you were just one person, with some other, other fellow photographers, and when covering a protest and a riot is really hard to figure everything out. But kind of what was your take on it?
Yeah, and so what I saw and experienced is a lot different than sort of what's making the bigger headlines now, because I was not able to get inside the Capitol. Me and my buddy Caden, he's the guy who's working with Popular Front, promoting my work and everything, great guy. We showed up around 2, and as we were walking up to the Capitol, that's when we heard that they had breached the Capitol itself. So we went on the west side of the building, which is where the lawn is by the pool. Mm-hmm. We tried pushing through the crowd to get up there, but it was absolutely packed. And after a couple minutes of that, it was just kind of unsafe, and it didn't seem like it was going to work out. So for most of it, we were outside on the Capitol grounds, sort of seeing how the crowd was reacting. And the tone of that was way different than all the clashes and stuff you're seeing of them getting up into there. In general, on that outside area around that time, it was, you wouldn't even known how bad it would have got. It was people just sort of hanging out. It was old people, it was families. They were just saying their same old Trump rhetoric and stuff like that. Election is stolen. But yeah, it was a much different vibe than what everything else was. So we did that for about an hour or two. We left. We started walking away with some of the protesters, seeing what the rest of the streets in the area were like. We got some bad intel that there was something else happening in D.C. We went and checked it out. There was nothing. And then when we walked back to the Capitol around, what time was it? It was around 4:30 p.m. when we got back to the Capitol. We were around the east side this time. And then by then the police presence was a little bit more reinforced. And I think at that point they had cleared everyone outside the building. Mm-hmm. And they had riot police and either SWAT, or I'd heard that it's Park Police, SRT or something. Mm-hmm. They had more specialized guys there that were helping secure outside the building. And around that time, we had started seeing a couple more people pepper sprayed and really more aggravated against the police and sort of just, typical protest stuff, yelling at them and pushing up against the fences. And then also at that time was when that press box of like TV news and other journalists got attacked, I guess is the right word for it.
Yeah, I saw like AP had like a whole bunch of their shit get kicked over, and
yeah.
And then like I saw another AP journalist get dragged by a couple supporters.
I saw the AP photojournalist get dragged away. That I think was in the original storming. That was fucked.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a scary situation where, you're just trying to, when it only takes one person, and then it's kind of like people kind of feed off the energy, and it can turn ugly real quick. Was like were you at where Trump was, talking to the giant crowd, and then it migrated, or was it like, could you tell? Or was it just people everywhere just kind of chilling, and then like all of a sudden like a group of them decided to go to the Capitol?
Yeah. I think it was people everywhere on like the Capitol lawn just sort of hanging out. And then once you get towards the building and the steps and everything, everyone was pushing that way. There was like some scaffolding steps where people were going up, and they brought that giant U.S. flag there. They hung it over and cheered. And yeah, just the closer you got to the building, the more compact everything got. And that's where sort of the real energy and aggression and everything was. Everything else went on. There were still thousands of people out there, hundreds, they were just sort of hanging out. They were just in it for the spectacle, it felt like.
Yeah, I keep seeing some reports of like people calling it attempted coup and stuff like that. And I was like, a coup would be if they actually stormed in and was arresting people on their own accord.
Yeah.
Like look up the Turkey attempted coup. And then it's like back, like a few years back when they tried that, like then then you see, it looked like to me, it was just like a chance for people took the opportunity, then they kept pushing and pushing. And the U.S. Capitol seemed like they were not prepared. I know there's some footage of cops being like, we're letting these people in, but people don't realize how big that building is. And I'm sure so many different sections of different things had different groups of people doing this and that. So, it must have been when you were taking photos, it must have been how were you trying to maneuver the crowd and figure out, was that difficult? Were you on your phone? Just kind of like the logistics of it.
Yeah, honestly, it was really difficult, and I was a bit disappointed at first because in myself because honestly, it was just visually overwhelming. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there was there's flags and people in costume and just MAGA apparel everywhere. I mean, it was hard to sort of be like, all right, I had to sort of step back and focus and be like, all right, where am I going next? Because there was just so much there. Um, but yeah, we sort of worked the crowd. We just sort of talked to people. I was shooting on a Canon DSLR. I didn't take much like additional footage on my phone. But yeah, I was just sort of talking to people, interviewing them. But then we sort of just walked around, looked what was happening, sort of seeing where the crowd was going. But like I was saying earlier, I mean, it was so split in different areas with different moods that it's hard to get to really say it was one thing or the other, whether it was like a coup, which I like kind of disagree with, But
Right. It almost looked like
yeah,
they were, once they got in the building, they were like, okay, what's the photo op that we can do?
yes. They definitely seem like they were more interested in going in there and getting their social media, photos and
Yeah.
everything like that. I don't really think there was a plan once they got in there.
Yeah. But I mean, it did get serious. I mean, people
Oh,
died.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
People died. I think just recently today they found out a woman was trampled to death in that crowd.
Yeah. That
Um,
officer was killed, which I had,
yeah.
I mean, I remember watching it live and they said there were some officers that were hurt, but they never said any. I never knew about the officer until this morning that I guess he just had internal bleeding or just got the shit knocked out of him. I don't know what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
But,
Apparently, what I'm seeing online that he got hit over the head with a fire extinguisher, and
mm,
then I think the police report or their press conference they said he just was involved with clashes with rioters and then collapsed once he got back to the office. So I think he had some sort of brain damage or something like that. I mean, that's rough. That's terrible.
is
But yeah, no, it's very weird because like I was saying, the crowd that I was at was just a much more peaceful people hanging out. But yeah, you go close to the building, and I mean, it was chaos. It was a riot at that point over there.
did you get a feel of some of the crowd? Obviously, not the entire crowd was in support of storming the U.S. Capitol. Like there were probably normal people there too, just like in all things. And
Yeah.
but did you get a sense there was a lot of people who were like paranoid, like Antifa or people infiltrating? Like, was there
Oh
any of
yeah.
that? Yeah,
Yeah,
paranoia.
yeah. It definitely was a paranoia, and then Antifa was the big boogeyman.
Hmm.
So I was there with my other friend who was taking photos, and then one of my buddies is a DC local, and he was showing us around and taking us around the city and everything. And he's more of a leftist and everything. And just the looks he was getting, there was people saying under their breath like, "Oh, is that guy Antifa?" And I mean, Antifa was the evil enemy on that day. And even the peaceful people were like, yeah, fuck Antifa, they're the real enemy here. So yeah, I guess when I say it's peaceful, the rhetoric was still very aggressive, and it was still like they stole this election, Democrats are evil, Antifa's evil,
Hmm.
BLM is evil. Like it was odd.
Yeah, it's crazy to because the it's not like I don't know what those people expected was going to happen because Biden's going to take over.
Right.
It's like we never. I haven't lived through that many presidencies, but when the winter comes, like there's a transition,
Yeah.
and there's always been people being like, I don't believe he won kind of thing, but this was like a whole new level.
Yeah.
I'm sure you heard a whole bunch of different talks and conspiracies and
Oh yeah.
QAnon type rhetoric, and
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting. Did you interview people and talk to people about that kind of stuff, or were you looking for
Um,
something else on the story, like for when you're looking for stories, or were you just there trying to capture the moment?
Yeah, I was just kind of capture the moment and just sort of see what kind of people were there. Like I was talking to a couple different people, asking them where they're from, why
Hmm.
they'd want to come here today and stuff like that. And there was ladies saying she came from South Carolina, people coming from West Palm Beach, from the West Coast. There was like
Wow.
a Californians there with their flag and everything. It was people came from all over for this event, and they all wanted to stop this deal. They all wanted to make sure Trump was president. I mean, they firmly believed that.
Really?
Um,
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a trip for sure. Um,
Were people wearing masks a lot, or was it
oh no.
really?
Oh yeah. It was yeah, it was violently like anti-mask too, which even in the middle of a crowd, it was just it was very surprising. And I caught some of it. I thought I had COVID. I got a little cough and cold going on here. I got tested today. I'm negative, but I do have a cold, so that's
Yeah.
good.
I feel like I got it like in February of last year. I
Yeah.
swear. I swear I
Oh,
had it.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I did as well. Right, back in like January of last year, before the first lockdown hit, I was sick as a dog in London, and I was like, and that was before even the main fear of COVID had hit. I just thought I had the flu.
Yeah. So when you were taking photos, were you describe kind of your when you're taking these photos of the protest and then it erupted into something more dangerous. How do you approach photos like now? Like, do you try to be like a fly on the wall, or you try to ask the person, "Hey, can I take your photo?" What's kind of take me through your process now? I know you're just starting out, but this
Yeah.
was it's a big event.
No, absolutely. Yeah, so I think I approach it sort of. It depends on what's happening. So in the more like action-heavy scenes, like with BLM this summer, where there was a march and there was more clashes and more direct confrontation, then I'm sort of like the fly on the wall on the scene, just photographing what's happening. Um, in those sort of calmer moments where I'm looking for people, it's always like, it's all right if I get a picture, a thumbs up, like thumbs down. Um, Generally, I don't like to just like take it and go and sort of be that person. But I mean, sometimes it just happens like that. But I always at least try and get like an okay, a slight talk to people, just a polite, let them know what I'm doing. Even with the police this summer, it was like, hey, sir, I'm gonna stand over here. Like, please don't pepper spray me.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. But yeah. So when I went through on Wednesday, sort of just entered the crowd. We sort of walking towards the front, and we sort of got held up a bit, so we were standing there talking to people around us and photographing, and then the building itself and sort of what people were doing. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of just sort of a hanging out, fly on the wall type of just being there. And then whenever we could talk to people, and whenever we did photograph them, sort of just making sure they were cool with it, finding out what was happening.
Was there a lot of freelance journalists or just news all over the place? Did you also see like, influencer type journalists where, it's very like their one side of the things and they're trying to show? I was just kind of curious of the media, overall media people, where you probably had a whole bunch of mixtures. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Media wise, I think it was. I mean, there was a lot of photographers everywhere. I know some of them are like staff, and then a lot of freelance. A lot of people that I follow and look up to were there, which was really cool to see. Their work and everything. And then there was definitely a lot of like more right wing or conservative internet celebrities or influencers doing their whole shtick out there as well.
yeah, I'm curious what the of journalism was going to be. Are you going like, I do think more journalists who are doing like what Jake is doing, even to some degree, like what Tim Pool is doing, even though now it's mostly just him talking and analyzing things, I do think it's great that journalists should try to tell their own stories and not always have to worry about getting published, like
Yeah, yeah,
create your own content. And I would say like years back, definitely try to get published, try to get that name recognition.
yeah,
Now I'm like, just try, don't let that hold you back. Like, get that story and post it, and don't always try to think of like the publishing. Like, for you, are you just kind of like trying to grind it, make a name for yourself, or are I've seen some of your photos and the work you've done, and they're great. Like, what's kind of your mentality, a long goal for this? Or
yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah, no. I think sort of right now, since I'm still in school and I'm not really sure where I'm going to be set up in the next couple of years and what I'm doing with it. I'm sort of just maintaining my online presence and sort of building with that community and stuff like that, which is working out okay for me now. But down the line, I think like to continue this, but definitely stick with independent. And I'd like to do some freelance work. Honestly, it worries me a little bit, sort of the
Yeah.
but no, I'm just kind of grinding it out for now. I'd love to do more conflict stuff. I mean, that was sort of my initial goal and still is. Once I was leaving the military, it's like I want to go back, but as an independent, as a freelancer, as a civilian, and be able to help tell those stories.
Yeah, man. Yeah, how I got started was I just bought a plane ticket and went to Baghdad. That's kind of that's kind of how it's a lot easier than people think, actually.
Yeah.
In a in a crazy way. And yeah, it's great, man. I think you should go for it, keep it up. And you're in London. You said you're based in London and you're going to school there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I basically bounce between Virginia and London.
Yeah, I mean, London's a great spot for, some of the best journalists, are based there, and
Oh yeah.
you're centered at a lot of different places. And so where were and when you were in the military, was that something you always wanted to do, or was that what kind of made you go through that?
I think so. I mean, I grew up. Both my parents were in the Air Force, and my mother, her what's it called? GI Bill benefits, her veterans benefits. She was going to transfer them to me so I can go to university coming out of school, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. At that point in my life, I did not think I could be like a photographer full time. I wasn't really focused with my work itself, and just in general, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And yeah, I was sort of leaning towards the military anyway. So I did the military thing, was able to, really learn what I wanted to do by myself and all that, and also just really straightened me out as well. But
yeah, I mean, you're going to get access through that too. A lot of your buddies that like when you start just, going through life, you start figuring out like, oh, this person has this access and this thing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it just works out. I mean, a lot of the former combat photographers who are in the military who are now, journalists, I mean, they have some of the best access,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A lot of them I met a lot of them who were foreign military who were like medics, volunteer medics during the Mosul operation. And like, they knew how to gel with the Iraqi, ISAF special forces
Yeah.
and a lot of them also were taking photos and, it was, I mean, they thrived in that environment really well, handled it really well, kept calm, knew how to read body languages, a lot of those things that I wish more independent freelance journalists would take the time to do. I mean, there's nothing like just going and doing it because that's how you learn. But, I mean, you got all the training you need, more than most of those freelance journalists, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about when you were covering the Black Lives Matter protest? What were some of the things that you still remember, and some of the things that that will, because it will be stamped in history for a while. So what some of the impressions and some of the stories that you kind of come across?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest moments of me covering that was, I don't remember the date, which is terrible, but there was a march, one of the bigger marches in Richmond, started at the Virginia State Capitol and then went down to Marcus David Peters Circle, which is where the Robert E. Lee monument was. And sort of people were gathered there, and there were speeches being made and whatnot. And I remember just being there, commotion on the other side of the statue of the circle. And so we walk over that way, and just all the police cars had started rolling up, and it was Richmond City, and it was state police. And I just remember, the crowd of hundreds sort of just getting, like, everyone sort of formed a line, and then people were getting on their knees, and I was on the front, the hands up, don't shoot and everything. And I was on the front, and I remember, like, getting down with them, and all the cops come out, and there was armed people earlier in the crowd of protesters, people with rifles. And I remember seeing the cops get out, rifles up, start aiming towards them, and there was rifles pointed towards us and everything. I was like, oh man. And it just sort of, that sense of dread hit, and I was like, oh man, this is how it's about to go down. And then I guess so a police truck came flying in, and I still don't know whether it scared one of the officers or not, but they fired the tear gas canisters. And I believe it was on accident, what they ended up saying. But and then I just remember the crowd scattering and sort of them walking through. But I did feel a sense of like calm. I just sort of like got out of the way and sort of moving forward and just started taking photos. And sort of I just remember like everyone sort of scattering and then coming back, and just it was madness. It was crazy because I mean the cops were pushing through the smoke. They were pepper spraying. It was aggressive. But it felt good to be there and documenting it and like being able to, I guess, I don't know, be in control. I felt in control, and being able to know what was going on, be able to help tell the story of that day and what happened and show people.
Yeah, it's were you, because you were in the military, and does it give any perspective when you're covering out there? Or is it just like kind of in the moment, or do you take anything that you learn from there covering that and understanding body language of what the police officers are doing and vice versa? Like, I was just kind of curious what your take was on that.
Yeah, I think that stuff definitely helps. I mean, and complete honesty, I was not like, my deployments to the Middle East were very, what's the word? Safe? Maybe not safe. Not very action heavy compared to what it was in the height of the war. I mean, we took indirect fire from mortars, but like I didn't get in any firefights. I wasn't out.
Yeah.
So I had a very different experience. But even then, those still helped me. When stuff was happening around, I just feel like I was able to be more aware what was going on. I was aware of my surroundings. I knew how to like keep myself calm, where to look. I don't know. I just felt in control, and I definitely think the military assisted with that, especially when you're like sort of out on patrol and being a team leader. Like, I was able to like direct my guys and know where to look, and just sort of it just taught me sort of soft skills that are just easy to translate in sort of moments of conflict or clashes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when you start doing this kind of line of work, and I've been taking a break from it. It's like you remember the firefights, but that's not like, you don't really remember those in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, it's more of the like, what gets you is the personal stories and the really sad shit, and it just like the firefights, that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, it could be really scary and intense and but at least for me, I remember a lot other things than that. And I mean, I was looking at some of your photos of some of your when you were in the military, like some of your, I guess maybe in your unit, but you guys are it looks like in a either plane or a helicopter. Some of the profile pictures that you were doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty cool. Are those?
Yeah.
Were those like in your unit kind of thing, or?
Yeah. So that was like. All the photos I took in Afghanistan were just my platoon out there doing our job. And luckily, my leadership, they knew I'd done photography, and so they let me do it. And then I was also able to take little like PR photos for them to send back to their leadership and show how good of a job we were doing. So it was like a mutually beneficial thing. So those photos you're talking about, it was us on the C-130 flying into Afghanistan. We did a lot of training the ANA forces, Afghan National Army forces that were with us. It was good for them. It was good for myself personally. It was good for the Marine Corps. And some of the Afghans got photos too. They enjoyed it. So, it was nice. I felt like I was able to really offer something while also gaining a lot myself.
I guess like a little bit. Are you like we could get to, I always like to get in a little bit of like a tech gear kind of thing. Like, are you like a digital guy, mirrorless, DSLR, or just whatever you have, you make it work?
Yeah, no, I've shot Canon digital pretty much since I started photography. I was doing, my lieutenant gifted me Fujifilm Instax, the wide one.
That's cool.
And I was using that on deployment, and I really liked using that. It's not something I would do for everything, but it was a cool little project that I did with it, and I'd like to continue it. I shoot a bit of like film here and there. That's more just personal stuff. But I think mainly just Canon DSLRs has been my go-to.
Yeah, yeah. I was started out as a Canon guy, and then I shoot. I mean, I do more video. Like photos was just something that I happened to do, and then I'm pretty much all just Fujifilm now. So like X-T3, X-T4. It's like good. I tell people just stick with the three big brands, and any camera that you get is going to be really good. You know,
any camera you get, it'd be great. Yeah, I got a Fujifilm X100F.
Oh, cool.
That's what I shoot all my street on, and I love that thing actually. That thing's a really cool. Fujifilm, I love their stuff.
So, do you like street art, like street photography? Is that what? Is that like that? What is that like? Is that something you just enjoy all the time, like just to keep getting better?
You know, I think that's really where I started, and that's also I think what helped me lead to photojournalism because street is really just documentary photos. If you think about it, you know, you're sort of just capturing what daily life is like for there, and so I think it wasn't hard for me growing up shooting street photography all the time to translate that to photojournalism, which is cool. I mean, I grew up, you know, I was born in '97. I fucking grew up on Tumblr and like the very beginning of Instagram. So like those were like the photos I really loved. I loved seeing like all the heavy saturated photography, you know. But yeah, so I think that's where I started, and then I'll probably always shoot street just because I feel like that's, if I'm just actually casually shooting photos or personal work, that's the stuff I love to create.
Did you while you were posting or anything, did Instagram ever like hurt your post or flagged it or anything like that? Like, did you even notice or anything like that? I was curious.
I don't think so. As far as I know, and if it has, I haven't noticed.
Yeah, they seem like they've done, like, they definitely have done certain things, especially graphic content. I now know they're very heavy on that. Like, almost more for like if you have a really big following, if you post graphic content.
Yeah.
Even though it's like, it is what it is, put a warning. Like, they definitely take really precautions. But then I see so many like journalists post that same thing and nothing happens to them. So
yeah, it seems really weird. Like the Atlas News guy.
Yeah,
he's really cool. I've talked to him a couple times. The poor guy has like all his posts getting taken down all the time just because he references. I mean, he tells the story, reports on what's happening, but even if he just says like ISIS militants did this, they'll take his post down because he referenced it. So he has to get real creative with it.
Oh yeah, do like a exclamation mark instead of the eye, stuff like that. Yeah, or a one.
I think even in one of the pictures that he put Mark Zuckerberg's like profile on
oh my gosh,
his picture, and was like covering up, censoring with pictures of Mark Zuckerberg. It was pretty funny.
That's crazy. So what's the school that you go to right now? What's it called?
Oh, University of the Arts, London.
What's that like?
Yeah. So I'm using my veterans benefits to go there, which is a super cool thing. And
absolutely.
Like, I think more vets need to know about it because the fact you get all your same benefits that you get in the U.S., but you can use them internationally. So I mean, it's really nice because it's a 3 years bachelor's program, which is sick. And I don't do like gen eds or anything else from the.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It's only photojournalism, which has been really nice.
You don't have to take geology for no freaking reason.
God knows. Yeah. God knows. I mean, I couldn't do any math or anything anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I went to a university, but I had an athletic scholarship, and so I was able to do that for a while. But I hated being like, why am I taking geology? Like, what am I doing? You know. So, I mean, I'm glad I have it. You know, I'm glad I have a degree. I'm the oldest of the siblings, so I'm glad I got that. But like, do I ever get asked for it? No, not really. I guess if I were to like apply through a job to like through the system at BBC or CNN or some legacy media, that's probably where they would like check off. But I know plenty of people who've gotten work and it doesn't even matter. It's all about the work that you've done and your experience, but
Yeah, absolutely.
no, that is I mean, I've had friends who are in the military and and they ask me like, what should I do next? I'm like, well, you can go to school for free and you might as well take
Yeah.
that advantage. So,
No, absolutely. Yeah.
and so being in London, I'm sure there's a lot of connections within that school and you meet people. That's one
Oh
good
yeah.
things about it. Have you gone to the Frontline Club at all yet?
No, I've been
I
really
guess
wanting
so.
to.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't be
Yeah.
open right
Yeah,
now.
but
Yeah.
I always get their emails. I'm like, damn, I really need to go. I mean, I'm here. Something I got to do before I leave London.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You'll. I mean, I don't know what now, but you would definitely like see some old school guys that are there who
Oh yeah.
I used to go to Sebastian Junger's place in New York.
Oh really?
He had a pub called the Half King, and my business partner Christian, he was one of his mentors, and that was like the place in New York you would go if you were like a journalist.
Damn. Yeah, that's cool.
It's not there anymore. Like
Yeah.
obviously it was just, I don't know what I can only imagine what running a restaurant in a big city is like. Like I have no idea, but I'm sure it was stressful in a lot of ways. And but it was like the hangout. I mean, I now live in Austin, Texas, so I just like the peace and quiet and hang out here. So it's I guess just kind of like, are you looking to just do photos, or you want to do video, or is photos kind of like photography your kind of bread and butter, what you want to do?
I think photography is my bread and butter, but I'm not like opposed to video. I've shot a little bit here and there. It's just not something I've done a lot. Something I need to do more. But I think for me, it's been figuring out like if I'm on scene or if I'm working or shooting photos or whatever. It's sort of hard to figure out. All right, now I have photos. Let me transition to video. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm sort of like just sort of working out how to manage both.
I think you'll just come since you're shooting on a DSLR mirrorless.
Yeah.
You could just you'll be like, oh, this might make sense for video, and just click it. But I do think for journalists who have to be this one band type person, it does make it really hard to. Not hard, but you could make this story like this could be a really good photo essay or a really good like doc. And to try to do all that at once is just, you kind of just get a little unorganized, or you just always constantly thinking, will this look good as a photo, or should I just keep recording video? But I appreciate your time, and I would love to bring you back on, are you back in London now, or are you in Richmond?
No, I'm still in Virginia, so I'm gonna cover. There should be a gun rally, the Virginia Lobby Day, just like there was last year. So the Second Amendment rally here in Richmond, I believe that's on the 18th of January. So I'll be out at that, and then I'll probably go out for inauguration.
Inauguration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It only takes one person to do something crazy,
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And the main take that I had through the whole U.S. Capitol incident, I don't know about you, but they push it to where so many people can get ideas, and unfortunately, it only takes one or two really bad people to. They now see like I kind of like see it as what happened during the whole Waco incident, during the Branch Davidians and all that kind of stuff, where there was the cult kind of madness was happening. Well, a lot of those people witnessed that, and then did like the Unabomber and everything.
Yeah.
Got that idea from seeing that, and then so I really hope. I don't think anything's gonna happen. I really hope, because it takes a lot for someone to do something like that. But that was my take on it. It's like, oh, this is just gonna push someone over the edge. So
that's exactly how I felt about on the 6th with the Stop the Steal rally. Because when we first got in the crowd, it was so packed. It was like this is just a bad spot to be in if anything happens. And because like just with so many people there feeling so wronged about their guy got an election stolen from them, if that's what they believe, and they feel that wronged. Like, it's definitely sketchy and sort of like anything can happen, but
Yeah, I heard.
yeah, I mean, there's not much you can do besides.
I know, like on the news, people were saying people leaving packages and and like I'm sure rumors like that just spread like crazy. Those times. Yeah.
So.
Crazy time. Well, be safe, man, and yeah, I'll chime you in or something, whenever you go through that, and yeah, I appreciate you taking the time.
No, yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for talking to me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.